Good morning. Thank you so much for joining me for a Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I'm your host, Dr. Angela Chester. You know what I like to do: enlighten, inspire, and empower you to become your best self. Scripture reminds us that the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. And today we are talking about making a U-turn. That's right, making a U-turn to paradise. My guest today is Marilyn Alcorn, and she is the author of U-Turn to Paradise. Now, sometimes as human beings, we do some really crazy things out there. So we're going to talk about what are some ways that we can change our behaviors. What are some ways that we can look at life from a totally different perspective? Now, Marilyn likes to say, because the spiritual side of mankind and womankind is not overrated, but is in fact often neglected in one's daily care of self, reading U-Turn to Paradise provides much-needed nourishment for the soul. It provides that which is essentially lacking in one's daily regiment to be on top of one's game. A daily read of U-Turn to Paradise takes one to a very happy place, she says, a place of hope and of prosperity. Now, figuratively speaking, it's like eating caviar for the soul and being soothed in an oatmeal soak for the spirit. Now, I love the way that she introduces her book, and I think that is really awesome. So I think we are going to enjoy our time together. So let me tell you a little bit more about Marilyn. She is a 1976 alum of Raymond College. After having obtained her AB in liberal arts and a clear California multi-subject teaching credential, Marilyn is now teaching English language arts, mathematics, science, social studies, and PE in grades K through 12 for the Stockton Unified School District for over 14 years. U-Turn to Paradise is her second published work. She has been writing since she was 10 years old. She states, "I consider my love for writing a divinely gifted passion, so I was not surprised when, after reading Randy Alcorn's book titled Heaven, the Lord gave me due notice that I was to write U-Turn to Paradise. People need to know that the Lord said, in essence, that I am a God of second, third, fourth, and so on chances." And I really like that idea as well. So let's go on and talk to Marilyn. Good morning, Marilyn. How are you? Thank you so much for joining me on Daily Spark.
Good morning, Dr. Chester and Dr. Angela. I am just great, and I'm just happy to be here to kind of say what thus said the Lord. You know, this is something that He inspired me to write and put together, and I'm happy to be His spokesperson.
And I love that when we are just we walk in that purpose and we are obedient to what we know that we are supposed to do. It not only changes our lives, but it changes the lives of people that are able to utilize our services or our products, or in your case, read the book, which I'm so happy that we'll be able to talk about. And I want to ask you about a statement that you made, and I think that it is quite intriguing, and that is, what do you mean when you say humankind's spiritual side is not overrated?
Dr. Angela, that is a good place to start. You know, that phrasing in and of itself, something's overrated. You know, love is overrated. Friendship is overrated, unfortunately. I've actually heard people say that. Well, that's speaking in a negative sense, in a negative context, that no, we don't need friendship that much, and we don't need love that much. People are just too mushy, or come on, we don't need to be that close anymore. You know, look at how we just text people instead of vocalize and talk to one another as we used to do. I mean, it was such a big thing, an important thing. The families would get together and call other family members that are long distance, and once a week, everybody would sit around the phone just to be able to hear the voices. And now it's just punching a few, letters in the telephone, and we don't even oftentimes spell the word out correctly. We just so we really have gotten away. We being humanity, human beings, have gotten away from being the social animals, the natural social animals that we are, and we were created as. We are all born spiritual beings. However, the way we express our spirituality culturally is uniquely different, and we see that all the time, all around us. There's some people that have different headdresses and, type of uniform type wearing. Years ago, it was the nuns that had their black and their white, and the fathers that way, the priests. But we feel the worship and recognize God. Our ancestors sang and they prayed throughout difficult and joyous times. So if they were celebrating, they prayed and laughed and danced. And if they were sad, they prayed, they laughed and danced. I personally have had that experience in some sad times to actually kind of stay away those depressions and yet praising God. And by the time I'm done with the praise, I feel so much better. I didn't even think of that at first instead of even going into the sadness. Some of the examples in the Bible, we see Miriam, the sister of Moses. Moses is a very famous prophet of God. And she cheered and created a song. I think it was like a poem, and it got just caught on as a song of praise to the Lord who got them through the Red Sea, and saved them from the approaching Egyptians who were trying to get them back to enslave them. And then we see David, King David, with all his royalty, almost stripped down to nearly nothingness, and just danced and celebrating the greatness and the great majesty of God's power and His being. So we see in our natural expression, and it's just to dance and sing out. Today we have gospel worship songs, and also the evangelical so-called worship songs, and they're just lovely. How great is our God? My favorite one. And these songs help us express that natural feelings and the natural understandings that we have just in natural, not even getting to the spiritual side of how wonderful God is to us, and the awesomeness, personal touch that you can get from Him, that personal sound and voice that you get from Him. It goes from being the conscious, your subconscious, to actually God as you get close to Him. One of the things God, I've noticed that God does, He is not invasive, and He's not intrusive. So all your spiritualness comes in terms of nutrition, giving it nutrition, is when you or any of us accept God into our life. I'm sure, some of the listeners have heard about asking Jesus to come into your life. Well, that's that acceptance thing. And once you accept God and His Son, Jesus, then there is, along with that, a beautiful link that is just empowered and boosted up. It's like, finally pressing that power button on that computer that's been sitting in that corner, and you're not sure if you really want to get with this thing called the computer, but once you push that button, the power is on. And once you make that acceptance to the Lord, yes, Lord, I accept you into my life, a great deal happens. And one of the things you said earlier coming into the show, that once our spiritual life is well activated and properly nurtured, then we are enabled to help others. So it's not just a self thing. We look out and, there's neighbors, there's friends, there's, of course, our family members, there are associates, affinity groups, and our bosses, the co-workers, all sorts of people that we engage in and relate with on a day-to-day basis. And when we're empowered through our spirit, through the acceptance of Jesus Christ into our spirit, then we're empowered to treat those others with kindness, with tenderness, with compassion, with empathy. This day and age, there's so many things that are out there in the news that are so hateful and so negative. But we, any of us, can do that. If you don't like the hate, you don't like the negativity, join, accept Christ. Make that U-turn. The U-turn is possible, but only through Him. And He will empower you to do just that, to be available, to be a helping hand to someone. I mean, you will automatically grow to looking around. It's kind of like those, I don't know if you're old enough, Dr. Angela, but years ago we used to see a lot of commercials or cartoons displaying the little Boy Scout walking the old lady across the street. So this is the thing that you will naturally be able to do. You will look around to see, who is in me? What can I do? You could be out at the mall. You could be, getting your dog him. Anything where day by day, I use my book, by all day. This is an all day. This is a practical thing. As well, you get that spiritual empowerment once you nurture it. And believe it or not, reading U-Turn to Paradise will also provide the nourishment of your spirit. There are wonderful little things I call spiritual nuggets inside of the book itself. There is a biography of Mother Teresa years ago. She was actually Sister Teresa before she became Mother Teresa. And in my lifetime, she went from those two titles to finally Saint Teresa. And she was one of my role models that I looked up to while she was around in her service. Because she said it's so selfless, and that's not selfish, that's selfless. Meaning she looked around and saw what she could do. Even in poverty, this woman walked miles and miles and miles and miles into the big city, looking for what she could do as a young lady. And then once she got there, she had no money. She had nothing, as far as material stuff. And she came in to look and see what she could do for others in her impoverished state. She was sleeping on the street until she found individuals who could help her. And she found them by first looking for someone to help her serve the people. And in this case, it was children, the little children that had been left on the street. She called going into the big dumpsters, where that was common thing for people to throw their infants. And it was so common. She would go inside there and get those infants out of there and find a home for them. And eventually she was able to gather enough money together in some of the local businesses. And they said she could really talk to people and get them to put out the money for her family. She was able to get a school and a nursing capacity so that the children could be cared for even medically. I'll tell you, it's amazing what any of us can do and accomplish when we
really put our hands to it. Exactly. Well, listeners, we need to take a very short break, but when we get back, we are going to continue this conversation with Marilyn Alcorn, and we are talking a U-turn to paradise. We'll be back right after this. And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I'm your host, Dr. Angela Chester. Today, my guest is Marilyn Alcorn, and she is the author of U-Turn to Paradise. We are talking about making sure that your life is all that it's supposed to be. And do you need to make a U-turn? Perhaps you do. Or maybe you just need to yield, pause, and just make a really sharp left or right to get back on track. So, Marilyn, my question for you now is that I know that U-Turn to Paradise is your second book, I believe. Are all of your writings covered under the religious or spiritual genre?
Basically, yes, Dr. Angela. To some extent, this Return to Paradise, as it turns out, could have easily have been the prelude to the Adrian's Revenge book that I published first. Because U-Turn to Paradise provides all the biblical and historical facts and basis for the fact that the main character in Adrian's Revenge actually took a U-turn in his life. Okay. So, we see with a fictional character what it's like to actually be in the middle of your life, and things get a little crazy, and you stop and you start thinking. And you start thinking about religion and God and this thing you heard over the years as you're like about 25 years old or so. And you say, I should rethink this thing about God because because so far I've kind of made a mess of my life, and I think I'll yield and kind of figure, give God a try and just what may come of it. So, that's where I guess I'm more comfortable with. Years ago, I kind of wrote things that were not necessarily, they were more secular. I was influenced greatly by the medical shows on TV like Dr. Ben Casey and those type of, those, ER would be ER equivalent to ER today, I guess. And I wrote a for that, a screenplay for that. And I also wrote years ago a screenplay called The Heralding. And that's my dog. Anyhow, called The Heralding. And what it is a child's salute to the goodness of God. So it's kind of where I'm at now in my life. Because, like I said, we have to stop and look at the truth of who we are as beings and in the whole course of the universe.
Now, when you're writing, and this is a question that I tend to ask all of my authors, when you're writing, is there a particular atmosphere that you need to have created? Are you the type of person that likes complete silence? Do you, go off to the cabin or go off to the beach, or what is needed for you to be your most creative in your writing time?
Well, believe it or not, I actually need to have some, what they call, I guess, that background noise, where there's people talking. In other words, in a cafe. My best places, I used to love to go to Barnes and Nobles, and they had the coffee place.
Barnes and Nobles, do they have Seattle Pete's? Is it Seattle Pete's that's in there, or because it's not Starbucks? I don't Seattle's best.
Right. No, it was Starbucks. You said it.
Okay.
And I would go sit there in the little restaurant there and have my coffee and just go to town with the light, because I would hear conversations that were there in the restaurant, cafe. going along inside of Barcelona regarding latest book, latest video, latest games, whatever. And all of that mixed together makes, kind of like type down. And I could just get lost, like I was off in my own little typing or writing, my book. And there were times with Paradise was a little bit different, I would say, than my previous, but not that much different. And the reason why it's a little different because the Lord gives it to direct. So, but I still think you need to have. I could keep writing even if family was there, having them.
Now, I want to ask you a different kind of question, and that is, since you have written You Turn to Paradise, and it's, what would you say, like a spiritually charged book, did you have any personal experiences? I guess my question is, did you minister to yourself as you were writing this book for others?
Yes, I did. And that was an amazing experience. That, I almost want to start crying now. But, the Lord, one thing about it, our spiritual side of us contains the core of our emotions. And so when that spiritual side is activated, you tend to be a little bit more emotional, whether it's joyous, whether you're rejoicing, or whether I used to tell my kids when we were in church, I said, Mom's okay, she's just crying tears of joy.
Yeah.
But it's what I experienced, and I experienced it. And not only I, but others who I've given opportunity to help me edit and look it over, they too experienced. One lady, she was so distraught. She had to actually stop reading it for a while. It really dared open some things for her. And that too did not surprise me because this was God's dictation. God's power, that spiritual power is real. I was just a vessel. I mean, it's a privilege to operate like that.
And I don't think, like you said, I don't think that people realize what it is just because they've never had that experience. But once you do, you totally and completely understand, and then it changes your life from that moment on. Now another question that I wanted to ask you was, I like how you say that God is a God of second chances, third chances, like fourth, fifth, sixth, and it's like and on and on. Why is that important, or why did you feel that it's important for the reader to understand that that's a part of God's personality?
Well, I guess that's the part of trying to encourage someone and impart the hope that God has made it very clear to me that He has given us through His Son, Jesus Christ. His Son was a special situation. He was an individual at the time it occurred who was without sin. He was completely without sin, and it was just what was needed at that particular time for a sacrifice. He actually sacrificed, voluntarily gave up his life, knowing what was going to happen, that he'd have to die, but it was for a purpose. And it was like, if any of us could figure out, would I die, I'm a parent, would I die to save my child? Would I die to save my best friend? And in this case, not only did Jesus die to save his cohorts or his peers at that time when he was living, but he also died for any of us here today. You know, generation after generations have been born in the world because of him. And so those of us who accept the call of the Lord, we can tell, we can witness, we can testify that this has happened, and that Jesus is who he said he is, and we are touched. And the fact that not only are we touched, but anyone else can be touched. You know, in the scripture it says, God so loved the world that he gave only begotten Son, that whosoever, and that's where those chances come from, not only whosoever, but God says, I have mercy. I am a God of mercy. So just like I allowed my son, I went so far as allow my son to be sacrificed for you, I also will allow you to take a do-over, to make a U-turn, to, you know, catch yourself. It's like the character, again, in Adrian's Revenge, which was my first published book. In 2008, I put that one out. And here we saw this quarterback, you know, get into the prime of his life, and all of a sudden everything just falls. You know, he was right on top of the world, you know, the Super Bowl ring, the whole 9 yards, the cheerleader, baby mama, you got it, you said he did it. So, but all of that was pulled out from under him, and he was left wondering, okay, what has happened? What is life all about? And so then we find, you know, according to God, life is all about looking around, seeing who we can help. But we can do that not only help our life, but our life is actually heightened and what's the word for it? But anyhow, we just feel so much better when we can help someone else, encourage them, and give them hope. So Jesus, he had said at one point in his ministry, his disciples had asked him, how often are we supposed to forgive them? And he said, are we supposed to forgive 7 times 7? And Jesus says, no, 70 times 7. So this is God's character, and this is what we do. We are to forgive others as else God says in his word. If we don't do that, because we're supposed to model ourselves after him, then if we don't, then he will not forgive us. The whole idea is to model ourselves after our God.
Well, Marilyn, it is almost time for us to go to break, and I want to make sure that everyone is able to follow you online. So what are the best ways to stay in contact with you?
Okay, there are a couple of different ways. What Facebook, unfortunately Facebook, there's so much going on with Facebook that is going in the negative, but if you can get through, it's still there, Facebook.com, there's an author page. I'm under my name, Marilyn Alcorn, and the spelling of Marilyn is like from Marilyn Monroe, Marilyn, and of course Alcorn. Also, I have the initial D as for Denise, and that's what you turn to paradise is listed under. So you can Google my name. I have also an As It Is in Heaven Ministries on Facebook. So it's like a mini quasi-semi blog where I put out some biblical-based postings of scriptures and pictures and songs, of course. So Facebook.com, As It Is in Heaven Ministries. And again, Facebook.com, Marilyn D as in Denise Alcorn.
Alrighty, listeners, we need to take a short break. We'll be back right after this. And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I'm your host, Dr. Angela Chester. We are talking about You Turn to Paradise. It is a book, but what an awesome concept as well, that God is a God of second, third, fourth, fifth, and so on chances. And I love how you say that, Marilyn. Now, when you were writing You Turn to Paradise, how have you changed? Like, is there a before and an after that you can see about yourself?
Yes. I used to look at what they, the quote unquote women of God type here, and the average church going lady, and I used to say, why can't I be like them? It just seemed like, it just seemed like I was such an oddball. And I noticed that is not the case anymore. I've mellowed out quite a bit. I used to be a construction worker, and with hard hat, the whole 9 yards. So imagine how I was coming out of that background. That was kind of rough. I remember when I first started reading the Bible, my co-workers, I was like the only woman out of a 40-man crew, and the co-workers would say, how can you run your mouth like that and yet you got the teeth in your lap? And about 2 years later that I even noticed that I didn't even use some sort of words anymore. So that was the beginning, but truly, after reading the book, I guess I gained confidence after writing the book. It's confidence about who I am, and like I say, in the high picture of things, the big picture of life and all, and my purpose, that I'm more confident about, my purpose and my direction. It's such a joy, you have this kind of a natural high and natural joy of knowing that you're going to be in heaven at some point. Jesus says that, in Revelation, that this is his reward for you. And his reward is with him when he comes back. But it's not just that of the reward of the future, even though that's what you can, really focus in on, because again, a lot of talk is not in that. In church, it's not talked about heaven, going to heaven. It's not a big deal. It's hardly ever discussed. The preachers hardly preach about it. And yet, it's so important. Because as we see in our world that we're living in day by day, all day long, so many negatives are bombarded at us. And when there is a God that exists, and he has promised us a world where there's only the confidence. And, that is wonderful, and that is something that's shouted out. So You Turn to Paradise does just that. But in the meantime, before you get there, it's really good to know, you do get those fuzzy feelings and those wonderful feelings. They come on a more regular basis, a more natural basis, so you're not too overwhelmed with joy about it, that you are in service. I'll tell people a lot, things that I've done to help. And I say, hey, this is nothing. This is what I'm supposed to do. As a Christian, this is what I'm supposed to do. We are helpers one to another. We are there to help, shed some light. The Lord tells me with his word, shine that light. And, the path that the road provides anywhere and everywhere, we can come along and shine those lights. So I guess, and I'm hoping as individuals read You Turn to Paradise, that they will too experience those good feelings and those natural feelings. This is how we were born in this regard. Like I said, that's that spiritual side. And when it comes to life, we're not just helping others. We are helping ourselves to be a whole, a complete person, and that's where that confidence comes in. Hey, I am all that and a bag of chips.
I love it. I love it. It's like, yes, having that confidence, and I totally agree with you. Now, I want to kind of point out, kind of shift a little bit, but I want to point out a particular person that's in the book, and that is who we refer to as Mother Teresa. Some of us realize that she is a saint. But my question is, why in your book do you include the portion that you do about Mother Teresa? Why is that so important for your readers?
Okay. Now, part of the answers in what you just said is that we do know of her. It is important for any of us to accept God and to take on that mantle of being the light, the shining light in the world of darkness, to give that, to nourish our spiritual side. And the little biography is a little bit to just nourish the spirit. You can take on all kinds of things to nourish the spirit. You can do worship songs, sing worship songs in the privacy of your home or your shower. Most people you're singing. I noticed I went to a Jewish synagogue, and I noticed in what the Jewish celebrate too is they dance. Dance is a very big corporate dance. It's a very big part of their worship. And they're so grateful because they don't even teach it. They've got just some basic steps, and they're all basically the same, and they'll go through it slowly with you so that you can participate and be engaged. And all of these things, movement, songs, if you're at home reading scriptures, if you're just reading, you turn to paradise. Basically a devotional. You are feeding your spirit. It's like I said, it's like caviar to your soul and an oatmeal soak for your spirit. It's just something that is done to provide all the more nourishment. Because each day you need to eat. You need to feed your spirit. You get beat up day by all day. And that you can use one of the tools.
I wanted to I wanted to ask, like many times when people are going through this thing called life, this journey called life, we have a tendency to hold on to a lot of baggage. We think that every horrible thing that's ever been said about us is more true than the things that are actually true that people have said about us many times. So my question is that when we're reading your book and we get to that portion of dealing with the baggage that we have in our lives, what do you want for the readers to really understand about letting go of that baggage?
Okay. Well, number one, it is important to, I call it, Michael Jackson wrote a song, The Man in the Mirror. And I just love that concept that he's singing about. And I advise my readers to go into their bathroom and they look at that person in the mirror and they have a heart-to-heart talk with that person. And what they're doing is taking the time to take stock of the attitude and characteristics of themselves that they need, that are very negative and maybe create anxiety for them and depression. But be real with it, be honest with themselves, and then go about the basis of, you can write it down on a list and list them. I actually provide in You Turn to Paradise, in the back of the book, I provide a record for keeping your daily spiritual progress. So you can kind of gauge yourself and keep track of your mileage gained or mileage lost.
Well, Marilyn, we are, and sorry to kind of cut you up there, we are down to our last minute of the show, and I want to make sure that just in case someone tuned in a little bit later, that they are able to follow you on the internet, that they're able to stay in contact with you. What would be the best way for everyone to stay in contact with you?
Okay, once again, though Facebook is on the fire somewhat right about now, guys, Facebook.com has an author page under my name, Marilyn Alcorn, and the Marilyn is spelled like Marilyn Monroe's name, Marilyn.
Well, Marilyn, thank you so much for being on the show today. I've really enjoyed my time with you.
Thank you.
And listeners, thank you for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I hope that you have an awesome week. And as always, may the Lord continue to shine his face upon you. May you receive his strength, his grace, and his mercy in all that you do. Bye-bye.
As a Christ follower, we have the assurance that Jesus will never leave us or forsake us. Jesus said that after he ascended into heaven, he would send the Holy Spirit to comfort us, to guide us, and to teach us spiritual truths. As we pray, Jesus puts his strong hand on our shoulder and guides us through various obstacles and challenges that we face in life. Jesus promises to never leave us or forsake us. There's power in prayer. When we pray for someone who has a need, we can be assured that God does hear our prayer. The answer may be immediate. The answer may be wait. The answer might even be no. Just understand that God does answer your prayer. A missionary and his family were forced to camp outside on the hill. They had money with them and they were fearful of an attack of roving thieves. After praying, they went to sleep. Months later, an injured man was brought into the mission hospital. He asked the missionaries if they had had soldiers guarding them on that special night. "We intended to rob you," he said, "but we were afraid of the 27 soldiers that were there." When the missionaries returned to their homeland, he related this strange story, and a member of the church said, "We had a prayer meeting that night, and we took the roll, and guess what? There were 27 of us present." The summer harvest is just in time for fall. Summer is a seed time, but it is also a harvest time. Summertime is a time to plant seed for the next harvest, and that's in the fall. A farmer prepares his fields by fertilizing and cultivating. He spends long hours planning and working. He works hard, knowing full well that the result of the harvest is dependent on forces outside of him. Everyone knows that farmers cannot cause the seeds to germinate, nor can they produce the right combination of rainfall, sunlight, and temperature that needs to bring the harvest in. Sure, we can try with artificial means, but there's nothing like those things that are grown out in God's full sun. Farmers are dependent on God. However, diligent farmers know they must do their parts. They understand that they are going to enjoy a harvest good enough to feed those of the world. They must do their part. In a sense, farmers are in a partnership with God, receiving the benefit only after fulfilling their responsibilities. Deuteronomy 28 reminds us It holds blessings for people in a nation that biblically fear the Lord. But it also speaks about curses for those who willfully live as they please. The Lord will send a blessing on your barns and on everything you put your hand to. The Lord will establish you as His holy people, if you keep the commands of the Lord your God and walk in His ways. The Lord will open the heavens, the storehouse of His bounty, to send rain on your land in season, and to bless all the works of your hands.